It was very hard to sell the show. Every network turned it down. And we couldn't, we had a meeting at ABC where the head of the network said that he would, the other thing that Bill wanted is he wanted more than a pilot. He wanted at least six episodes. So we had a meeting at ABC, our alma mater, and they said, we're not going to give you a 6-episode order. And then we went to CBS and they said no, and NBC said no. NBC later did say yes, but then they, in the middle of this process, actually changed the deal to their advantage. And we remember being up in Lake Tahoe with Bill without a real deal while we were sort of working out the pilot idea. We really had an expanded version of what Marcy was saying. At some point, we wrote a treatment that Bill signed off on and worked with us on. And one of the great things about the show was that it really wasn't a story-driven show. It was really a character-driven show. And often the slimmest of stories were our most powerful, like the grandparents come over for dinner. I mean, that would be, within those cracks, Bill would develop, universal themes. But we didn't have a show based on the fact that a character at the end of Act 1 finds out that they're pregnant, and then Act 2 they find out that, they misplaced the test results. So it was a bit of an odd and quiet show, and it was very hard for the networks to embrace it. And we were also selling at a time that there was the standard thought that comedy was dead. We actually heard that. The top 10 shows on primetime television were all dramas, and maybe number 34 was the first comedy. And there really was a belief, we are still seeing this right now, that people they make these statements that are insane, but there really was a general belief that comedy was dead. So it was hard to sell any show, and it was particularly hard to sell this show.
Who did you work with at NBC?
Who did we work with?
Who did you sell that to? Who did you sell it to?
Brandon Tartikoff, who didn't, he loved Bill, but he didn't particularly believe in the concept. Brandon's pitch to us back was that, it should be the Jack Benny show or the George Burns and Gracie Allen show, where Bill would come out and talk to the camera as Bill Cosby, the rich
as a Las Vegas entertainer.
Las Vegas entertainer holding his cigar and stuff, and then go in and out of sitcom. I think NBC was very nervous that these small little stories that only talked about human behavior, I think they were very nervous about that working.
So we would develop this scheme. There was a 2-month period where we were making shows before it went on the air, and NBC was very trepidatious. And Marcy and I came in to show the rough cut of the first show, which was a show that was about Rudy's goldfish dying. And we showed it to NBC, and they completely didn't get it. And they got very panicky. They hadn't put it in a good time period, by the way. They'd put it up against a very strong show, Magnum with Tom Selleck. So it wasn't exactly a vote of confidence going in. But after this rough cut, they were very anxious about the show. And so Marcy and I would try to figure out, since we were shooting the show not just in New York but in Brooklyn, how to sort of call them when we knew they weren't in the office, and how we would be busy when they called us, and how we would send them the tapes that would get lost, and then they couldn't reach us for a couple of days. But basically, we never showed them rough cuts after that because it was too debilitating.
It was hide the rough cut. And the program executive, NBC's program executive, sort of a low-level network person that's the liaison person between the show and the network, was Garth Ancier, who's been a terrific programmer over the years since then. At the time, and we certainly understand this, Garth would come to the tapings, which went way long, because we'd also, Jay Sandrich is a brilliant director. He would allow Bill to go off on tangents. And just some of those tangents were fabulous, and some we'd lift out. But a typical taping... He
wouldn't be following the script, though.
He wouldn't be following the script, and a typical taping for a 22-minute show was 40-something minutes long. That tape was 40-something minutes long. So poor Garth Ancier, the program executive from NBC, just went, well, this is a disaster. How is this going to work? How can they cut this show? What he didn't know is that our secret weapon was Felicia Rashad, who played Bill Cosby's wife. And Felicia was such a pro, theater trained, that she, when he would go off on a rant, some of which were brilliant, some of which were just Bill having fun, She would stay in the same position so she could be edited around. She would just hold her position, react. He'd go off for like a few minutes, 5 minutes, 6, whatever, and she'd pull him right back to story. And what are we going to do about Denise? What are we going to do about Denise? And so you could edit out whatever you wanted because Felicia was just standing still and reacting. God bless her. And Bill was brilliant, and the show was fabulous. But NBC never stopped being nervous until it went on the air.